Welcome back to Bloody Besties with your hosts, Ruby Wild
and Melissa May.
And again, Melissa May decided to break me right before I hit record. So I apologize.
You're welcome.
But what was the topic I gave you this week?
This week's topic is Rockefellers.
All right.
I chose John D. Rockefeller. This man lived so long that his life insurance company had to pay him $5 million. When he was 95, his life insurance policy matured, and most policies mature at 121 years old and some at 100 years old. When Rockefeller turned 96, his insurance company was required to pay him $5 million face value for his policy. He was born July 8th, 1839, and he died May 23rd, 1937. So he was 98 years old almost.
And he got that money himself?
Yeah, $5 million.
That's I want to live long enough to where I get my own life insurance policy.
And then donate it.
Fuck that shit. I'll spend the hell out of it. No, I don't have children. I don't need to leave it to anyone.
I have nephews.
They'll forgive me.
And animal rescues. Animal rescues.
They'll all forgive me. I'll be living my best life. You may think that this is all about the Rockefellers, but it's not. I just didn't want to give everything away to Melissa May. So we're actually starting with Dr. John. You're going to laugh at this. Handworker. It's not spelled that way. It's just that's his name. Handworker. Yeah. And he was called to Key Biscayne, Florida, room 2C of the Governor's Lodge apartment complex to answer a call the morning of June 30th, 1964. It was the home of millionaire Jacques Moslier. His wife had found him rolled in an orange blanket when she returned from a hospital visit at 4:30 a.m. When the doctor arrived, he saw Jack on the living room floor in a pool of blood with no pulse. He called the police and the medical examiner. The medical examiner, Dr. Joseph Davis, said that he had been beaten in the head at least twice, possibly with a Coke bottle or a swan sculpture that was found broken beside him before he was stabbed 39 times in the chest, 17 on the left side, 2 in his breastbone, and 6 more to his left side, not the chest area, but a little bit lower, in addition to others that were not aimed at his heart. In addition, he did also have defensive wounds. This 69-year-old man fought for his life. He just didn't succeed. Neighbors heard a shout, quote, don't do that to me. And his dog, Rocky, barking around 1:45 a.m. Yeah, that needed to start the episode off hot, didn't I?
Sad.
Who was Jack and who would want him dead? Well, it turned out that during the police investigation, there may have been a few people. Jack was born in 1895 and was only 13 when his father passed, leading to him dropping out of school and helping his mom financially. He worked his way up from mechanic to new car dealer, into car financing, and that led him into general financing. All of this to say that he made it through the Great Depression and into World War II with more than $40,000 in the bank, which in 1940s, that's what, like $1 million or something?
A lot.
It's insane. Along the way, he married Evelyn Kaiser in 1917. They had 4 kids, Jacqueline May, Bonnie May, Evelyn, and Marilyn Jean. The couple didn't make it, and they were divorced when he was in New Orleans in 1947, and that was a fateful move that changed his life forever. It was there that he met Candace Weatherby, who was born in 1919 or 1920. She never told the truth about her age, in Buchanan, Georgia. She went by Candy and was the 6th of 12 kids. Her father, Lon, was a farmer. Her mother, Lizzie, raised a gaggle of children. Yeah, 12.
I heard.
A dozen. She raised a dozen children. In 1932, her mother died in childbirth with the 13th child when Candy was 12. So yeah,
That's insane.
her father couldn't cope, and he sent the kids off to live with relatives because he couldn't raise all 12 by himself. Candy was encouraged by her grandfather to find a man to support her And so she went on the hunt and she found Norman Johnson, who was a civil engineer. He was 10 years older than her, and they married in 1939 when she was just 19. And she moved to Alabama, where she had Norman in 1940. She volunteered at the USO, which we've done. You and I, in fact, we've done quite a bit of work, not for the USO. Obviously, we're not old enough, but we did pinup work that raised money for veterans. But the USO back in the day, which is kind of what we formed ourselves after, if you will, because we were pinups.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What
is the USO?
Yes.
It stands for United States Organization. Before America was involved in World War II, President Roosevelt united several service associations into one organization to lift the morale of our military and show support on the home front. He merged the Salvation Army, Young Men's Christian Association, Young Women's Christian Association, National Catholic Community Services, National Travelers Aid Association, and National Jewish Welfare Board.
Wow.
All became the USO. Like, that's a lot of groups that just merged. It's a nonprofit organization that relies on donations to support the programs. There are centers at or near military installations across the United States and throughout the world. Their trademark USO tours bring America and its celebrities to service members who are assigned far from home to entertain them and convey the support of the nation. And I can't help but think about Bob Hope when you think of the USO. He's like, the face of it.
Because it's still going on, right? Like they still, oh, you know what? I want to say another girl that we went to high school with that you know that I'm friends with. I don't know if you're still friends with her. Served in the army, had to do a tour in Iraq.
Is she short?
Yes.
With a little high heel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to name her name, but she did a tour in Iraq and another tour in Afghanistan. And she had Toby Keith come out and do a concert. And she was so excited because this is back in the day when we had to keep doing snail mail. And we also did this really cool thing that you don't get these days, but you know, voice memos. But we would have to do that. We both bought mini recorders and we would make mini cassettes. And we would record each other. And then I would send her my mini cassette. And then she would record and then send me her mini cassette. Every time that she was overseas, that's how we would communicate. And if she listens to us, she's going to know who we are. And I didn't get permission to use her name. So I'm not going to.
We're not going to, but
you know
who
exactly who I'm talking about.
I do. She's so sweet.
She's the best.
Bob Hope is an American treasure. He lightened the mood in serious situations. He'd poke fun at the unit's military brass, and it was always so funny when he would make jokes. Today, his legacy lives on at Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum, where the exhibit showcases his contributions to the war effort and honors the impact he made on the lives of so many. Have you been there?
I have family that lives in that area, and they have taken me to Pearl Harbor quite a bit. If I have been to the museum and seen that exhibition, I don't think I have. I might have been either too young at the time or it was too long ago.
Yeah. How long has it been? I didn't write down the date it opened because it was getting way too long.
Okay. The last time I went to Waikiki was 2005, but I didn't go to the museum then. The museum would have been, I did a soccer tournament there. 97, maybe?
Yeah, it wasn't there then.
Okay. That might be why.
We did our honeymoon there in 2004. It was not there, but our last visit when we stayed at the Disney resort, we took a tour and we stopped. And it's a really good exhibit. It's like a tent on the landing strip. They have airplanes, helicopters, and it's like a little tent right there. You walk in and it's Bob Hope everywhere.
That's
and
awesome.
My husband is a reader, so he read every single plaque.
I know.
Yeah, you've been with us.
Yeah, I know.
But it's really good. You guys should really go to the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum.
I mean, if my auntie's still, she's going to live there, but she's older, so I've got to visit her sooner than later. Yeah. There's so many places I have to go, but I got to get a puppy sitter first.
Yeah.
Your puppies are on different schedules than mine. It doesn't work.
You free feed yours.
Yeah. She's a good girl. All right. So in this case, the USO Military Support Group, they were hosting a party for the soldiers at Fort Benning, Georgia. And it was there that she met Army officer Winthrop Rockefeller, who, according to a Texas Monthly article, he was part of the Rockefeller family and he was the son of John D. Rockefeller,
Hey.
who we talked about at the beginning of the episode. And Melissa May had absolutely no clue that that was the Rockefeller I was bringing up, which is kind of insane. It was after this meeting that she gave birth to Rita Rockefeller Johnson. Middle name Rockefeller, not family name, because eyebrows raised. Later in life, Candy was asked why she gave Rita the middle name, and she said, "I'm not going to answer that." Rita, for her part, stated her mother told her that she was, in fact, Winthrop's daughter and that the family stayed close with him, and he was called Uncle Win. Yeah, they were that close. The family moved to New Orleans, Louisiana in mid-1940s because Norman got a job engineering at a shipyard. This move didn't quite make their marriage last, however, and they divorced in 1947. Candy maintained custody of all the kids while Norman settled in Boulder, Colorado. All right, I'm going to segue here to you where you're going to talk about Candy.
Candy had a brother, DeWitt William Weatherby, who murdered Cecil Thompson on May 13th, 1956. Cecil was shot 3 times and DeWitt confessed to the crime. During the trial, witness James Greenway said they were playing poker at DeWitt's place when Cecil was shot in the adjacent room. This was after he heard DeWitt tell Cecil, "You can't run my help off." Again, DeWitt admitted to the shooting, but said it was in self-defense. The jury did not buy it, and he was sentenced to life. He was paroled in less than 5 years and lived until 1979, which is an amazing year.
Shut it. And so this is Candy's family. And so Candy, after her divorce, decided that she wanted to become a model. And so she attended. And if you're familiar at all with any sort of mid-1900s, the Barbizon School of Modeling, do you listen to Moms and Mysteries? Used to be Moms and Murder?
No.
One of the girls in that was a part of Barbizon School of Modeling.
Oh.
But I heard of it. I wanted to be a part of it, but I wasn't good enough.
Did you know Barbizon has been the first step into modeling and acting since 1939?
I did not know that. Wait, was there any? I don't know why I'm asking you this. Was there any other modeling company even in existence by then?
Nah, probably not. They teach current industry standards and techniques to help build the skills, confidence, and knowledge to safely explore opportunities in modeling and acting. I looked into their alumni list, and the only people I recognized was Ryan Philippe and Juliana Ranick. And I really had to look into Juliana Ranick because I recognized her face, but I didn't know why. And she's 50-year-old from Italy. She's the co-anchor of the E! News and reality show Juliana and Bill. So
I don't know that.
I would not go here. I don't know anybody.
I mean, one, if it's the only thing available, I could see that. But two, Ryan Phillippe's a pretty big deal.
He's the only one
that you know of, but we all know that you don't watch the majority of movies or TV that the rest of the people do. Now I feel the need to look back into it.
I watch it once and then I forget it. I move on.
I wish. Well, Candy decided to go there in New York City. She had already modeled clothes and was a toothpaste model. Them's got some good teeth, which I wouldn't know anything about. She returned to New Orleans when she opened Candace Montgomery Modeling Self-Improvement School with the intention of advising ladies on makeup and hairstyling. I mean, atta girl for having a goal.
Don't think this is going to end well, though.
For someone. She worked as a volunteer fundraiser for the New Orleans Grand Opera Company, and that was how she met Jack, the wealthy banker that she intended on soliciting donations. Long story short, they were married. Oh. She solicited more than just donations. They were married May 1949, and that was quickly followed by a move to Houston, Texas. It was there that the couple and their now 6 children, 2 from her previous marriage, 4 from his, they moved into a 28-room 3-story brick mansion with a 7-car garage.
Damn.
Yeah. I wish.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Nice. There were 4 more kids that were adopted, and this was Martha, Eddie, Christopher, and Daniel. And this was after Jack read the tragic story of their family in Chicago. Leonard Glenn was married to Betty, and the couple had their 5 children. And on January 12th, 1957, Betty, who was pregnant with child number 6, Daniel, Martha, Edward, Christopher, and Alexander were present. Leonard had been in a psychiatric hospital for 3 years prior at the behest of his wife and was officially discharged in 1956. He was declared sane, but an alcoholic. Betty did not believe him to be sane and wanted him to go back into the hospital, but he refused. That January morning, Leonard approached his sleeping wife and daughter, Martha, and proceeded to shoot Betty with a rifle. He then gathered the rest of his children in the kitchen to serve them breakfast before telling them that they were all going to drive to Tennessee. It is unknown when it occurred in the sequence, but Leonard also had stabbed the baby Alexander before loading everyone into the car for the road trip. They drove until he crashed into a snowbank a day later. Police came to the scene and found all but Alexander was fine. The baby was in critical condition and died in the hospital. Leonard's explanation for stabbing the baby: I cut the baby because I didn't think that my wife was dead and I couldn't kill her. If I couldn't kill her, I was going to kill the baby. The children were immediately transferred to the care of the maternal uncle until the adoption by Jack that same month after their grandmother agreed, wanting to keep the children together and in the best life possible. Leonard was committed to the state hospital indefinitely, and I couldn't find what happened to him after that fact. In fact, finding that much was like pulling freaking teeth in newspaper articles. So Candace was, by all accounts, a fantastic mother and a well-known philanthropist in the area. In 1961, she received a call from her sister, Elizabeth, who asked her to take on another project. Elizabeth's son, 28-year-old Melvin Lane Powers, he had gotten into trouble and she wanted him to change scenery in an attempt to reform him. He was convicted of swindling in Pontiac, Michigan, where he served 90 days in jail, having convinced an old man to buy $20,000 in useless stock in a fake magazine subscription firm. While on probation, Candy agreed to have him, and he moved to Houston to be with the family. This is a very full household already, and I mean, 7 bathrooms and 28 rooms might not even be enough for all of this. Mel was given a job at Allen Parker Company as a repossessor by Jack, and he was given a room at the mansion, again, according to Texas Monthly article written by Skip Hollinsworth in 2021. Again, if you don't put your articles behind a paywall, I can actually quote you. And this was a great article, and I appreciate it so much. So thank you for not being behind a paywall. I'm broke. So Candy paid for Melvin to have some treatments done.
Electrotherapy? What?
No, I don't know why.
Lobotomy.
No, this is treatments that an aunt shouldn't have her nephew have done. He was circumcised.
Oh.
His tonsils were removed and his ears were adjusted to be closer to his head, and his face was sanded, quote unquote. And Candy paid for all of this. That was not enough for him, and his living situation led to Candy and Mel becoming lovers. Aunt and nephew, biologically related, genetically related. Jack was in Europe and Florida for health problems at this time because he had a lung infection. And Jack did find out about their affair in 1963 from staff, and that led him to start reading her diary, which confirmed everything. There ain't no privacy when that happens. Come on.
Don't do diaries. Come on.
That was your takeaway?
Yeah.
That's your takeaway?
Okay.
How about don't fuck your nephew?
We already did that in the incest episode. Don't do diaries. It's so
You know what? I have a feeling I came across this when I was researching the incest episode. I'm not going to lie. I have a feeling that's where this one came up. Jack had Mel fired from his job and then kicked him out of the house. And that culminated in Mel stating he would come back and become a master of the mansion. Candy would claim that the firing was because Mel wanted to start his own business and Jack was not about that. Who knows? Jack then moved to their apartment in Florida, leaving Candy in the mansion in Houston with a $5,000 a week allowance. Yes, please.
Yeah, sign me up.
I mean, even right now in today's money, I'll take it. I'll take $5,000 a month in salary. Yes, please. If I don't have to do anything else ever, I'll take it. This did not become Candy and Mel's relationship, however, because she started giving him money to start a mobile home business, and employees said that Mel often talked about killing Jack. Candy kept up the facade, however, and her and Jack's marriage was just fine. She even took some of the kids to Florida to visit him during the fateful time that Jack happened to be murdered. Police learned all of this during their investigation, and they now believed that they had their complete motive: the incestuous love affair and the desire for millions. Mel was arrested 3 days after the murder while in Houston. Candy shortly after. Both her and Mel were charged with Jack's murder. It took a couple of years for the trial to begin, and they were each allowed out on bond for $50,000 after their arrests. Candy was allowed to wait for trial in Houston, and Mel was allowed to wait in Atlanta. Candy put up collateral to pay for the lawyers, including jewelry, as she had no access to Jack's money until the decision of the guilt was made, as we know the slaughter rule. The trial started January 17, 1966 in Miami, Florida. No one under the age of 21 was allowed at the trial because it was considered so salacious. They were tried together, and if found guilty, they would both face the death penalty. Prosecution was headed by Richard Gearston, an imposing figure at 6'5", a former Air Force bomber navigator. He had lost his right eye in battle when the enemy hit his plane in a bombing run over Germany in World War II. He, along with Arthur Hutto and Gerald Cogan, called 224 witnesses to testify as observers to Candy and Mel's lifestyle, aka affair.
That's a long trial.
Mm-hmm. He had a problem, though, because there was no direct physical evidence to tie either of them to the murder. The pair was represented by 6 defense attorneys. 6. Mel was defended by Texan Percy Foreman, another imposing figure at 6'4", 230 pounds. Out of 700 clients he defended for murder, he only lost 1 to the death sentence. Right? Kind of impressive. He put everyone else on trial except for his client, and he said that Jack was a sexual deviant, a ruthless financer, and, but that didn't mean he was a murderer. He worked alongside Harvey St. Jane and Henry Carr. Candy's defense was conducted by Clyde Woody, another Texan, along with Walter Gwynn and Marion Rosen. Keep in mind, at the time, there were not many women called to serve on a jury because of the state law in Florida at the time had limited it, so it's no surprise that the jury was all male. To sum up the goings-on of the 6-week trial, Candy had an alibi. She said she had taken her children on a drive at 1 a.m. to mail letters. She then got a migraine and needed to go to the hospital. And this was all happening while her husband was murdered. So migraines. I've never had one. Have you?
I had one in my life when I worked in the movie industry.
I could see that.
And it's no joke. It's way worse than a normal headache. It causes debilitating, throbbing, one-sided head pain that can leave you in bed for days. Mine was I had to just go in the break room, which had no windows, and just shut the lights off and just take a nap. It was strange, but never again.
Miss Mayday gets them kind of often, and she talks about orbs or something. And
with your eyes.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think I have one of my nephews and one of my sisters also that gets migraines. And I'm like, bad headache? I feel like.
Well, they could do like piercings in your certain parts of your ears and to relieve it. But researchers aren't sure of the exact cause of the migraines, which is odd to me. Studies show genetics play a role in the migraines.
I mean, that would make sense that my sister and her son have them.
When you have a headache, specific nerves in your blood vessels send pain signals to your brain, which releases inflammatory substances into your head's nerves and blood vessels. What triggers the migraine? It could be stress, it could be hormone changes, medications, changes to your sleep, weather condition changes, overexertion, caffeine or tobacco, if you missed a meal, exposure to bright lights, loud noises, strong odors. Like you're fucked if you get this all the time.
I feel so bad. And that's why they make specific medications for it. And then Miss Mayday was even talking about how overseas they have Excedrin migraine and we don't have that in America.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like we used to.
I feel like we did,
migraine.
But then overseas they have paracetamol that is nowhere near what we can get as a pain reliever for just a normal non-steroid anti-inflammatory. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other on those ones.
Isn't that like why people, when they get off normal like cruise lines, they go running to the Mexican ports and go right to the pharmacy? Have you heard that?
Yeah. Even I do that because they have the good, what do they have? They have
allergies,
the good,
right?
Yes.
Or is it the fentanyl you're after?
No, it's the allergy meds, man.
Yeah.
They are the best. And same thing with their like antibacterial creams. They're better. They're better. So much better because regulations and such. But yeah, Excedrin migraine, I don't think that you can even get that in the United States anymore. I could be wrong, but yeah, they're intense. And so she said that she had to go to a hospital because of hers. And to back this up, in the time she had spent in Miami with the kids, she had visited the hospital with migraines 2 previous times as well. So she had chronic migraines. There was also a nurse at the hospital where Candy was at the night of the killing who said that a man that was not Jack called 3 times asking for her.
Oh, scandal.
Because again, remember, you have to go through the switchboard to get it directed to your room at the time.
I'm watching Mad Men for the 3rd time. And switchboards are so fun. Like all those ladies know all the gossip.
As they should. And not to mention the fact, like I had been in hospitals, one of my later, 1985, I had another surgical removal of body parts. In 1995, I had to surgically get removed my appendix and lymph nodes. And I remember vividly at the time because it's 1985. I only had one parent with me.
You're
and the
saying
other one.
85 and then 95.
Oh, I'm sorry, 85. I was 5. And I had one parent have to call the other parent through the hospital because we didn't have cell phones or anything. In order to get there, you had to go through the front desk who then wired it to your room. So anybody at the front desk would know somebody calling being like, I have to be connected to room, blah, blah, blah. There was no direct line to that room. So that's what they were noticing. And then Candy started putting on a show during trial. She started fainting. She had more migraines. She was nauseated, and she even showed up once in a neck brace. Yeah. So flight records showed that Mel had flown into Miami just before the murder and returned to Houston hours later. His palm print was found in Jack's apartment on his counter, and there was a handyman who said that he had just cleaned that counter a few hours before Jack was murdered. But the defense contested the palm print along with the 26 finger and palm prints that were unable to be identified in the area. They were like, they were just all there. Like, you're wrong. It is said that the victim, Jack, had dyed black hair in his right palm. So he had been gripping hair, and that was never placed to anyone. Mel had been seen in a white Chevy, described as the car that was seen driving away from the scene of the murder, where 16 prints from Mel were present in the rental car, along with blood stains that traced back to Jack. Mel was seen with blood on his clothes in Houston, according to the police chemist Floyd E. McDonald. 3 of those stains were found inside a sleeve, on a button, and on the outside of a pant leg, and they were human blood, but it was too small to type at the time. There were photos of Candy and Mel together in nightclubs, on vacations, and they also found letters declaring her love for him. There was a bartender from Stuffed Shirt Lounge that said he served Mel the night of the murder a double scotch and gave him an empty king-size Coca-Cola bottle when he requested it, which could possibly be the reason that they thought Jack was beat with a bottle.
Or a swan statue.
Or a swan. In addition, Percy claimed that Jack was gay, and that's why Candy fell in love with in the arms of her nephew. And maybe it was possible that he was killed by a gay lover. He brought up that Jack was a ruthless businessman and probably made plenty of enemies in his line of work. Back to the prosecution, who presented a note written by Jack after he found out about the incestuous affair. If Mel and Candace don't kill me first, I'll kill them. Well, okay. There was a prenup that meant if he divorced Candy, she would get half of everything, but she would only get $200,000 if she was the one who chose to leave him. Mhm. The prosecution, they presented a Texas convict named Billy Frank Mulvey, who said that Candy gave him $7,000 in 1962 to kill her husband. He took the money and spent it, having never killed him. This led to an outburst in the courtroom from Candy, who said that she had never seen that man before. His testimony was countered by two other convicts for the defense, who said that Billy only said this to have his sentence reduced by 5 years. The judge did not allow prosecution to present a 9-page letter from Mel to Candy written while they were in jail. Candy's journal was also not allowed. Now, there's a Florida law at the time. I'm not sure if it's still in place. Has to do with closing arguments.
You're talking about the Florida closing argument rule?
Yeah, I made you look it up because I wasn't about that life.
Florida closing argument rule, which is in chapter 918.19, as provided in the common law in criminal prosecutions after the closing evidence. So first of all, the prosecuting attorney shall open the closing arguments. 2, the accused or the attorney for the accused may reply. And then 3, the prosecuting attorney may reply in rebuttal. They are, some people, it's Republicans versus the Democrats. Republicans are trying to get rid of this rule, and the Democrats want it to stay. So that was pretty current as of last year.
Okay.
They're trying to change it, but it's still in effect.
Because in this time it said that, because the prosecution's supposed to initiate the closing arguments. But if there is a defense attorney that never calls a witness specifically, they're allowed to speak last.
Yeah.
Wait, if any attorney doesn't actually call a witness,
Okay,
they're able to speak last. I don't 100% know what happens, nor does it really freaking matter because you're supposed to listen to everything anyway.
They say it gives like favoritism, or it leaves like the last word in the jurors' ears, which is why they're trying to change it.
Yeah. But either way, closing arguments took almost 5 hours, at least an hour of which was focused on Billy the convict's testimony. It took 4 days of deliberations because the first vote was split 3 ways, 3 for guilty, 4 for undecided, and 5 for not guilty. They wanted to rehear the testimony about the fingerprints and the neighbors of the victims. After this, 4 undecided changed to not guilty, and finally there was a consensus. What do you think the verdict was that the jury came to?
Not guilty.
It was not guilty.
Sure.
Candy ran up to the jury and started kissing them.
Oh my God.
Before she left the courtroom, Mel and Candy embraced and kissed and stated they would not marry. And then they drove off into the sunset. Candy inherited everything minus the $1 million trust funds left to each of the children, meaning $22 million, which is around $200 million today, which included the banks that were owned by Jack. She moved back to Houston, where she lived with Mel for a few years before their relationship had to run its course, and they broke up. And after the trial, they decided to sue Percy Foreman because remember that collateral that they put up to him for their funds? He didn't give it back to them, even though there was 4.6 acres in that collateral in Houston, because he sold it before the trial was even up.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. He transferred the deed into his own name in order to do it. Honestly, I couldn't figure out what happened with that lawsuit in the end. It doesn't really freaking matter. Mel became a real estate developer, and one of his projects was a twin 20-story Arena Towers office building. By 1979, he was worth $200 million himself. In the mid-1980s, creditors were after him and trying to take one of those towers because he was now broke. He was living in the penthouse of one of the towers, so he was declaring homesteading, if you will. A 20,000 square foot place with a rooftop swimming pool and a helipad. And he won the homestead argument.
Wow.
Yeah. He then declared bankruptcy in 1983, and he was making his way back to riches at the time of his death in 2010 at the age of 68 from a form of pneumonia. And there's a salacious detail again from Texas Monthly I keep referencing because I don't want to get sued, that in his autopsy, it showed that he also had a penile prosthetic implanted into the shaft, believed to have been implanted by Candy at the time of his circumcision.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Again, allegedly. Mm-hmm. Candace took 5 years to find husband number 3 in 1971 when she was allegedly 57. Again, she never told the truth about her age ever. This was to 33-year-old electrical contractor Barnett Wade Garrison. Do we think this marriage went well?
No, not at all.
No. Because following a fight that the couple had in 1972, Candy stated that she locked him out of the house. And then, according to police investigation, while he was trying to re-enter the home, he fell from the third-floor roof and was critically injured. He had head injuries, broken ribs, and a collapsed lung. He had a fractured hip, and he needed brain surgery. There was also an unloaded 9mm pistol inside the carrying case nearby where his body was found. Leroy Fletcher, who was the butler, was the one who found him and called for help. She, at the time, was locked in her bedroom when police arrived and was incoherent when she finally opened the door to them. Investigation determined that he fell from the top roof. It was a multi-story home. He hit the second roof, grabbed a gutter, and then landed on a wrought iron table. He was missing his shoes. His right foot had a sock on it. Another sock was found in the front yard. His left sock was found on the patio. And according to police, when he had been locked out of his home, he tried to get in through the third-story window. So everything was ruled an accident. Now, after he had partially recovered, she filed a lawsuit against her in-laws, his mother, Maud, and his brother, Gary, saying that they were getting in the way of her seeing him because he was confined to a wheelchair after the accident and suffered memory loss. She said that Maud couldn't care for him properly, but the lawsuit didn't go in her favor. They ruled, no, you're not allowed to see him. So they divorced, and Barnett died 25 years later in 2009. Candy died in 1976 in South Florida at the Fontainebleau Hotel at the age of 62. She had another migraine. She was treated with medication around midnight, but she didn't tell the doctor, who gave her Demerol and Phenergen, that she had already taken Placidil, and she never woke. Her autopsy showed that she had been a chronic drug abuser in her life. She had numerous needle marks in her butt where she would use her drugs. Yeah. Her cause of death was positional asphyxiation. You know what that is?
Positional asphyxiation. She probably, all right, I'm totally guessing. She was vomiting from overdosing and she choked on her own vomit because their position was supposed to be.
I mean, that is a form of it, but think more. Have you ever tucked your chin into your chest?
No.
And tried to breathe?
No.
Try it right now.
I don't want to.
Do it.
Okay, it's fine.
Now picture doing that for hours. Eventually, you're just going to
My back would hurt.
Yeah, and you're just not going to get enough. And then
So she passed out like that.
Well, she passed out face down on her mattress. So because she was face down, she asphyxiated herself because she was unable to breathe. Yeah, I gave you a very rudimentary practice. There's plenty more, but that's one of my favorite ones as a go-to. If you tuck your chin all the way to your chest and you try and just breathe repeatedly for minutes, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And you start getting, faint of breath. And she was buried in Arlington Cemetery next to Jack, which is really insulting to me.
She does not deserve to be there.
No.
Let's freaking dig her up.
I'm not gonna, but it really bothers me that she's buried next to Jack in Arlington of all places, because even though, yeah, I get that she's acquitted, but come on. Well, after her death, there was a whole lawsuit after a will that she altered near her death, where she disinherited the 4 adopted kids. And the courts decided that the adopted kids should, in fact, inherit part of the estate because the jury believed that the amendment after the will was forged.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, go ahead and remember the Fontainebleau, because that has to do with next week's episode, I promise. And that is kind of why I have one leading into the next.
So, remember that Naughty Nature Productions is going to take charge of our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get some fun little pictures and blips on all these episodes.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? They're going to have to, yes. If you want, other than our socials where we have little bloop bloops, hopefully they find some good content.
And maybe some bloopers at the end, because today was full of them, which we won't know because I'm an amazing editor.
And again, if you want to sponsor us getting new mics, if you want better audio content, there's, I think, a buy a coffee. You can always inbox us and figure out how to Venmo us for better mics.
Sponsor us.
All right. We love you all. Talk to you next time.
Bye, y'all.
The views and thoughts expressed in this podcast are ours alone and do not represent the thoughts or opinions of anyone else. The information presented is for general information purposes only. We are not liable for anything you do with this information.
Bloopers.
No. Silence. Bloody fuck ups. Fucking hey. Cecil was. Wake up, tongue. Tap that wiener.
It's got a bit of it. Give it a little tappa. little tappa.
Little tap that wiener. Tap that.
Little tappa.
Okay.
Barbizon.
I looked at their alumni knit. Oh, I tried so good to start it over, and it just did it again. Straight up.
Okay. She worked as a volunteer fundraiser for the New Orleans Grand. I almost said Grand Ole Opry.